The Rappongi Grand Hotel glittered against Tokyo's night sky, all crystal chandeliers and champagne promises. Kira Monroe adjusted the slit of her black silk gown and scanned the ballroom. Tech executives, venture capitalists, politicians with clean hands and dirty money. Her father's world. Her world now. "You look stunning tonight," her date murmured. "Hiroki something. CFO of something." She'd already forgotten. "Thank you." She accepted champagne from a passing server, her attention elsewhere. Then the air changed. She felt it before she saw him. A shift in the room's energy, conversations dropping to whispers. Kira's fingers tightened around her glass. Kenji Yamada walked through the ballroom like he owned it. Which, in ways that didn't appear on any deed, he did. His black suit was immaculate, but it was the way he wore it that commanded attention. Like a blade in silk. Dangerous. Deliberate. 13 years. It had been 13 years since she'd seen him. He looked nothing like the 17-year-old boy from international school. That boy had been lean and quiet, always watching from the corners. This man was honed. Lethal. The kind of man mothers warn their daughters about, though never by name. Kira forced herself to look away, to laugh at something Hiroki said. "Excuse me." A voice like smoke and steel cut through the noise. "Monroe-san. It's been a long time." She turned slowly, meeting those dark eyes with practiced composure. "Yamada-san. I didn't expect to see you at a tech summit. I have diverse interests." The corner of his mouth curved, barely. "May I steal you for a moment? There's a business matter I'd like to discuss." It wasn't really a question. Hiroki shifted beside her, suddenly uncertain. Everyone knew who Kenji Yamada was, even if they pretended not to. "I'm here with someone," Kira said, frost in her tone. Kenji's gaze flicked to Hiroki, brief and dismissive. Then those obsidian eyes returned to her, and something flickered in their depths. Something that made her pulse quicken. "It's business," he repeated softly. "Your father would want you to hear what I have to say." The mention of her father was strategic. She hated that it worked. 5 minutes. She followed him through the crowd, aware of the eyes tracking their movement. A Monroe and a Yamada. Tokyo would be buzzing by morning. Kenji led her to a private balcony overlooking the city. The November air was cold enough to make her skin prickle, but she refused to show it. "You've changed," he said, not looking at her. "People tend to do that over 13 years. She kept her distance, leaning against the railing. "What business could you possibly have with Monroe Tech? Your father is acquiring the Nakamura building in Shibuya." "Yes. The deal closes next week." "That building sits on land my family has historical claim to." Kira's jaw tightened. "There's nothing historical about it. The sale is legal." "Legal." He turned to her now, and the force of his attention was like standing too close to fire. "You've been back in Japan for 6 months. And you still think legal is the only thing that matters here?" "I think my family doesn't negotiate with criminal organizations." "With what, Kira?" He took a step closer. The use of her first name after years of silence hit harder than it should have. "Your father has been negotiating with us for 15 years, he continued. "How do you think Monroe Tech expanded so smoothly into Asian markets? The permits for Minato Tower? The connections for the Osaka data center?" "You're lying." "Am I?" He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne. Cedar and smoke. "Ask him yourself. Though I suspect you already know the answer. You're too smart not to have noticed the gaps in the contracts, the facilitators who never appear at meetings." Kira's nails dug into her palms. She had noticed. Small inconsistencies over the years, deals that closed too smoothly. She'd told herself it was her father's brilliance. "What do you want?" "A meeting. You, me, and the real terms of the Nakamura acquisition." "No. You haven't even heard my offer." "I don't need to. My father made it clear a long time ago. Your family and mine. Your father forbade a 15-year-old girl from speaking to a boy at school." His voice dropped lower. "Tell me, Kira, do you always do what your father tells you?" The question hung between them, loaded with memories of stolen conversations in school hallways, of two teenagers who'd been drawn to each other despite every reason not to be. "I'm not 15 anymore." "No." His gaze traveled down her face, her throat, before returning to her eyes. Slow. Deliberate. You're not. The air between them crackled with something dangerous. This conversation is over. She went to turn around. His hand caught her wrist. Not hard, but firm enough to stop her. The contact was electric. Thursday, 8 p.m. The Nakamura building, top floor. Come alone or come with your father's lawyers. Either way, this conversation isn't finished. She yanked her wrist free, hating the way her skin burned where he'd touched her. You don't give me orders. No, he agreed, something almost like a smile playing at his lips. But you'll come anyway. Because you're curious. Because you've always been curious, even when you shouldn't be. Before she could respond, he walked past her, back toward the gala. Kira stood there for a long moment, trying to steady herself. Through the glass doors, she caught Kenji's eyes across the crowded room. He was talking to an older man, but his attention was on her. Always on her. Despite everything, her father's warnings, the 13 years, the chasm between their worlds, something inside her responded. Something that had been waiting since she was 15 years old. Thursday, 8 p.m. She'd go, of course. He'd been right about that too. The Nakamura building was a glass and steel monolith in Shibuya, 42 floors of prime Tokyo real estate. Kira arrived at 7:55 p.m., alone despite her father's protests, dressed in a charcoal suit that meant business and nothing else. The lobby was empty except for a security guard who nodded at her with recognition that felt too familiar. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor was smooth, silent. Her reflection in the mirrored walls looked composed. Controlled. A lie, but a convincing one. The doors opened to reveal a sleek office space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Shibuya's neon sprawl. A conference table sat in the center, papers already laid out. Kenji stood by the windows, his back to her. Black suit, no tie. He turned as she entered, and the impact of his full attention made her grateful for the distance between them. Monroe-san. Formal. As if the balcony conversation had never happened. Thank you for coming. Let's skip the pleasantries. Kira set her bag on the conference table. What exactly do you want with the Nakamura building? To understand why your father wants it so badly. He moved to the table, but didn't sit. Neither did she. It's not prime real estate. The building itself is outdated. And yet Monroe Tech is paying 15% above market value. That's not your concern. It is when the land has been in my family's sphere of influence for 3 generations. Sphere of influence. Kira's tone was cutting. Interesting euphemism. Would you prefer I be direct? He braced his hands on the table, leaning forward slightly. Your father is buying property in territory my family controls. That requires a conversation. My father doesn't answer to you. No. But you're here anyway. His dark eyes held hers. Why is that? Because you told me to come, she thought, but didn't say. Because 13 years hasn't been long enough to forget the way you used to look at me across a classroom. Because I want this deal to close without complications, she said instead. Then let's talk about complications. He slid a folder across the table. The Nakamura building sits adjacent to 3 properties owned by subsidiaries connected to my organization. Your father's expansion plans, the ones in his confidential filing, would require demolishing all 3. Kira opened the folder, scanning quickly. Her stomach sank. This information wasn't public. How did you get this? Does it matter? It's corporate espionage. It's due diligence. He straightened, moving around the table. Not toward her, but closer. Your father is making moves in Shibuya without considering who he's displacing. That's dangerous. Is that a threat? It's a fact. He stopped a few feet away. Close enough that she could see the slight tension in his jaw, the only crack in his composed exterior. I'm trying to prevent a situation where we become enemies, Kira. There it was again. Her first name, spoken in that low voice that did things to her pulse she refused to acknowledge. We're already enemies, she said. Our families have been for as long as I can remember. Our fathers are enemies. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. That doesn't mean we have to be. What are you suggesting? A partnership. Monroe Tech gets the Nakamura building. My family retains control of the adjacent properties. We coordinate the development. Work together. She couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. A tech company and a Yakuza organization. It wouldn't be the first time your father has made such arrangements. The words stung because they were true. And what do you get out of this? A foothold in legitimate business. Access to international markets through Monroe Tech's networks. He paused. And a chance to prove that I'm not just what your father told you I am. Kira's breath caught. The comment was too personal, too close to the real reason her pulse was racing. This is business, she said, voice sharper than intended. My father's opinion of you is irrelevant. Is it? He took another step closer, and she forced herself not to retreat. Because you're looking at me like you're trying to decide if I'm dangerous. You're dangerous. Maybe. His voice dropped. But not to you. The words hung between them, weighted with implication. Kira could feel the heat rising in her face and hated herself for it. I'll review your proposal, she said, turning back to the table, needing the distance. But I'm not making any promises. I don't expect you to. When she glanced back, his expression was unreadable again. Not yet. She gathered the folder, aware of his gaze tracking her movements. Is that all? For now. Kira moved toward the elevator, then paused. Against her better judgment, she turned back. At school. Before my father found out about. She stopped, not sure how to finish. Before he forbade you from talking to me, Kenji supplied. Did you ever wonder what might have happened if he hadn't? The question escaped before she could stop it. Unprofessional. Dangerous. Something flickered in Kenji's eyes. Not quite vulnerability, but close. Every day for 13 years. The admission hit her like a physical blow. She should leave. Should pretend she hadn't asked, hadn't heard his answer. I'll send you my decision about the partnership by Monday, she said, and stepped into the elevator before he could respond. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of him standing by the windows, silhouetted against the Tokyo skyline, looking as alone as she felt. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs, trying to steady herself. This was business. Just business. She was still telling herself that lie when she got home. Kira spent the weekend reviewing Kenji's proposal. It was thorough, professional, and surprisingly fair. The partnership would benefit Monroe Tech significantly, access to development permits that normally took years, connections with local contractors, navigating the complex web of Shibuya's political landscape. It was also everything her father would hate. Sunday night, she sat in her apartment overlooking Raponi, the proposal spread across her dining table, and admitted the truth to herself. She wanted to say yes. Not because it made business sense, though it did. Because it meant seeing Kenji again. Her phone rang. Her father. Have you seen the Nikkei article? His voice was tight with anger. Kira pulled up the business section on her laptop. The headline made her stomach drop. Monroe Tech in talks with Yamada organization. New alliance or dangerous gamble? I can explain. You met with him. Not a question. An accusation. After I explicitly told you to stay away from that family. It was business. He has legitimate concerns about the Nakamura deal. Legitimate. Her father's laugh was harsh. Kira, there is nothing legitimate about the Yamada family. They're criminals. Thugs in expensive suits. They're also the key to completing our Shibuya expansion without years of delays and legal battles. Silence. Then, you're considering his proposal. I'm considering what's best for the company. What's best for the company is staying away from organizations that could destroy everything we've built with one scandal. His voice softened slightly. I know Kenji Yamada is compelling, but he's not who you think he is. I don't think he's anything, Kira lied. This is just business. No, her father sighed. With him, it's never just business. I've known his father for 20 years. The Yamada men don't do anything without an agenda. And I suspect his agenda involves more than real estate. The implication was clear. Kira's face burned. I can handle myself. Can you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're making the same mistake you almost made at 15. That's not fair. Isn't it? You had a crush on him at school. I saw it, even if you thought you were hiding it. He was dangerous then, and he's more dangerous now. The difference is that now he has the power to actually hurt you. Kira's grip tightened on her phone. I'm not a child anymore. No. You're the heir to a billion-dollar company, which makes you an even bigger target. He paused. Reject his proposal. Tomorrow. And don't meet with him again. The line went dead. Kira sat in the silence of her apartment, staring at the proposal. Every logical part of her brain said her father was right. The Yamada family was dangerous. Kenji was dangerous. But another part, the part that had spent 13 years trying to forget dark eyes and rare smiles, whispered that maybe danger was exactly what she needed. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Have you made your decision? She stared at the message, pulse quickening. She should ignore it. Should follow her father's orders like she always did. Instead, she typed, we need to discuss the terms in person. Are you available tomorrow? The response came immediately. Tell me when and where. Kira hesitated, then made a decision that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. My office. 7 p.m. Come alone. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then, as you wish, Monroe-san. The formality of the response should have been reassuring. It wasn't. Because underneath the professional courtesy, she could feel the same electric current that had been building between them since the gala. Since the balcony. Since 13 years ago when they were just 2 teenagers who weren't supposed to talk to each other. She was playing with fire. But maybe, after years of being the perfect daughter, the perfect executive, the perfect everything, she was ready to burn. Kira's office was on the 20th floor of the Minato Tower, all glass and steel and carefully curated modern art. By 6:45 p.m., the floor was empty, her assistant long gone. She'd sent everyone home early, claiming she needed quiet to work. Another lie in a growing collection. She checked her reflection in the window. Navy dress, professional. Hair pulled back. Armor in place. She looked like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. The elevator chimed at 7 p.m. exactly. Kenji stepped out, and Kira's carefully constructed composure wavered. He'd shed his suit jacket, rolled his sleeves to his forearms. It should have made him look casual. Instead, it made him look dangerous in a different way. Monroe-san. He stopped a careful distance from her desk. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I reviewed your proposal. She kept her voice level, professional. It's thorough. But my father wants me to reject it. And what do you want? The question hung between them, loaded with more than business implications. I want to understand why you're really doing this, Kira said. The partnership makes sense for Monroe Tech. It makes less sense for you. You don't need us. Don't I? He moved closer, stopping at the edge of her desk. My family has spent 3 generations building power in the shadows. Maybe I want something different. Legitimacy. Among other things. What other things? His gaze held hers. You're intelligent enough to know the answer to that. Her pulse jumped. This is business. Is it? He tilted his head slightly. Then why did you ask everyone to leave? Why meet after hours alone? Because I don't need my staff gossiping about meetings with the Yamada family. Reasonable. He didn't sound convinced. And here I thought you might be as curious about this. He gestured between them, as I am. About what? About whether 13 years changed anything. He rounded her desk slowly, deliberately. Not trapping her, but closing the distance. About whether what we felt all those years ago was real or just adolescent fantasy. Kira stood her ground, even as her heart hammered against her ribs. We were kids. It was nothing. You're lying. He stopped close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. You've been lying since the gala. Since the moment you saw me and felt exactly what I felt. Which is, that 13 years wasn't nearly long enough to forget. His voice dropped lower. That seeing you again was like oxygen after drowning. That working with you is torture because all I want is to. He stopped himself, jaw tightening. The control he was exercising was visible, tangible. To what? The question escaped before she could stop it. To know if you taste the way I've imagined for 13 years. The words sent heat flooding through her. Kira forced herself to breathe, to think. This is inappropriate. Yes, we're supposed to be discussing a business partnership. We are. He didn't move closer, but his gaze felt like a physical touch. I'm being honest about my motivations. The partnership is real. The benefits are real. But so is this. There is no this. No? He smiled, sharp and knowing. Then why haven't you stepped away? Why are your pupils dilated? Why is your pulse racing? He gestured to her throat. I can see it from here. Damn him for being observant. Damn her for being so transparent. What do you want from me, Kenji? Her use of his first name felt like surrender. The truth. He held her gaze. Tell me you feel nothing and I'll leave. We'll keep it strictly business. I'll never mention this again. It would be so easy to lie. To protect herself. I can't tell you that, she whispered. Something blazing flashed in his eyes. Then what are we doing? I don't know. The admission cost her. I don't know what this is. I don't know how to want something that could destroy everything I've built. Who says it has to destroy anything? My father. Your family. Every rule we've both been living by. Maybe the rules are wrong. He lifted his hand, stopped just short of touching her face. May I? The question surprised her. Despite his intensity, despite everything, he was asking permission. She nodded, not trusting her voice. His fingers traced her jawline, featherlight. The touch sent electricity down her spine. His thumb brushed her lower lip, and her breath hitched. 13 years, he murmured. 13 years of wondering. Of trying to forget. Of convincing myself you were just a memory I'd built up too much in my mind. And? She could barely get the word out. You're so much more than I remembered. His hand slid into her hair, and she leaned into the touch despite herself. So much more than I deserve. Kenji. The office door opened. They sprang apart as someone stepped inside. Kira's heart nearly stopped. Her father.
Kira.
His voice was cold, controlled. We need to talk. He looked at Kenji, and the temperature in the room dropped below zero. Yamada-san. I believe your meeting is over. Kenji's expression shuddered immediately, all warmth gone. He stepped back from Kira, putting careful distance between them. Monroe-san. A slight bow. We'll continue this discussion another time. The words were carefully neutral, but his eyes met Kira's for one charged moment before he walked to the elevator. When the doors closed behind him, her father turned to her. My office. Now. It wasn't a request. If your heart just skipped a beat, like and subscribe for the fallout, and comment on what you think Kira's dad will do next. Her father's office was on the top floor, corner suite with views of Tokyo Tower. Kira had been here 1,000 times, but tonight it felt different. Like being called to the principal's office. Like being 15 again. He closed the door behind them, moved to the bar, and poured himself 2 fingers of scotch. Didn't offer her one. How long? His back was to her, voice tight. How long what? Don't play games with me, Kira. He turned, and she saw the barely controlled anger in his eyes. How long have you been meeting with him? This was the 2nd time. The first was at the Nakamura building last week. The one I explicitly told you not to attend. You said to hear him out. That's what I did. I said to send legal representation. He set his glass down hard enough that the crystal rang. I did not say to meet with him alone. Twice. After hours. Kira straightened her spine. The partnership he's proposing is solid. It would save us months of delays. I don't care about the partnership. Her father's voice rose. I care about my daughter being manipulated by a man whose family has built an empire on violence and extortion. He's not manipulating me. Isn't he? Her father moved closer, and his expression softened slightly. Sweetheart, you're brilliant when it comes to business. But Kenji Yamada is playing a different game. One you're not equipped to win. The condescension stung. I'm not a child. No. But you're also not thinking clearly. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I saw how you looked at him just now. How he looked at you. This isn't about business, Kira. It never was. Her face heated. You're wrong. Am I? Because it looks exactly like it did 13 years ago. His voice gentled. I know you had feelings for him at school. First love, or whatever you want to call it. But that boy is gone. The man who runs the Yamada organization has done things that would horrify you if you knew. Then tell me. Kira met his gaze. Tell me what he's done that's so terrible. Her father was quiet for a long moment. I can't give you specifics, but I know his father. I know how that family operates. They don't form partnerships, they form dependencies. They get their hooks in, and then they own you. The way they own you? The words came out sharper than intended. Her father's expression hardened. What did he tell you? That you've been working with his family for 15 years. That every major expansion we've done in Asia has been facilitated by the Yamada organization. She watched his face carefully. Is it true? He didn't deny it. Business in Tokyo requires certain accommodations. That doesn't mean I trust them. And it certainly doesn't mean I want my daughter involved with them any more than necessary. Involved. Kira latched onto the word. This is a professional relationship. Is it? Because what I saw in your office looked personal. She had no defense against that. Because he was right. What had almost happened in her office had nothing to do with business. I'm handling it, she said quietly. No, you're not. Her father sighed, suddenly looking tired. Kira, I'm not saying this to control you. I'm saying it because I've watched the Yamada family destroy people. Good people who thought they could play in that world and come out clean. They can't. And neither can you. So, what do you want me to do? Reject the partnership. Cut all contact with Kenji Yamada. Let me handle the Shibuya expansion. And if I think the partnership is the right business decision, then I'm pulling you from the project. His tone left no room for argument. I won't watch you make a mistake that could ruin your life. The ultimatum hung between them. Kira felt something crack inside her, the part that had always been the obedient daughter, the perfect executive, the one who followed orders without question. You can't do that. I'm still CEO of this company. And, more importantly, I'm your father. His expression was resolute. I know you think I'm being controlling. Maybe I am. But I also know what I'm doing. Trust me on this. Trust. The word felt heavy. She'd trusted him her whole life. Followed his guidance, his rules, his vision for her future. But standing here now, she wondered if trust meant always obeying. Or if it meant trusting herself enough to make her own choices, even the dangerous ones. I need time to think, she said. There's nothing to think about. End it, Kira. She looked at her father, at the man who'd given her everything, taught her everything, shaped her into who she was. And for the first time in her life, she understood that becoming her own person meant sometimes disappointing him. I'll consider your advice, she said carefully. But I make my own decisions. His jaw tightened. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything except my job. Your job is to run this company responsibly. Not to. He stopped himself, but the implication was clear. Not to what? Kira's voice was cold now. Say it. Not to risk everything we've built because you have feelings for someone inappropriate. The words stung because they were too close to the truth she'd been avoiding. This conversation is over. She turned toward the door. Kira. She stopped but didn't turn around. I love you, her father said quietly. Everything I do is to protect you. I need you to understand that. I know. And she did. But understanding his intentions didn't mean agreeing with them. Good night, Dad. She left before he could respond, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, needing the physical exertion to burn off the anger and confusion. Her phone buzzed as she reached the ground floor. A text from the same unknown number. Are you all right? She stared at the message, something tight in her chest loosening slightly. He was asking. Despite being thrown out, despite the obvious tension with her father, he was checking on her. How did you know? Your father's expression when he walked in. And the fact that you haven't left the building yet. Kira glanced around the empty lobby, then out at the street. A black sedan was parked across from the entrance. She could just make out a figure in the driver's seat. Are you watching me? Making sure you're safe. There's a difference. She should be angry. Should be disturbed by the surveillance. Instead, she felt something else entirely, a dangerous warmth spreading through her chest. Go home, Kenji. Not until you do. Stubborn. Protective. Completely inappropriate. And somehow, exactly what she needed right now. Kira pushed through the lobby doors and crossed the street to his car. She tapped on the window. It rolled down, revealing Kenji's face in the dashboard light. This is stalking, she said. This is making sure your father doesn't follow you home to continue the argument. His eyes searched her face. Are you okay? No. The honesty escaped before she could stop it. I'm not. He opened the passenger door. Get in. She should refuse. Should go home, follow her father's orders, end this before it became something she couldn't control. She got in the car. Kenji pulled into traffic smoothly, heading away from her apartment in Raponi. She didn't ask where they were going. Didn't care. They drove in silence for several minutes before he spoke. I'm sorry for putting you in that position. You didn't do anything wrong, didn't I? He glanced at her. I pushed too hard in your office. Your father was right to be angry. My father doesn't get to decide who I... She stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. Who what? His voice was quiet. Nothing. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Kira looked at him, at the sharp lines of his profile illuminated by passing streetlights. Where are we going? Somewhere we can talk without worrying about who's watching. He navigated through Shibuya's side streets with practiced ease. Somewhere I can apologize properly. You don't need to apologize. Yes, I do. He pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a sleek modern building. I've been selfish. Using business as an excuse to see you. Pushing boundaries I have no right to push. They took an elevator to the top floor, entered a penthouse apartment that was distinctly lived in despite its minimalist aesthetic. Books on the coffee table, a laptop on the kitchen counter, a jacket thrown over a chair. This is your place, Kira said. Yes. He moved to the windows, putting distance between them. I wanted you to see it. To understand that I'm not just the head of the Amada organization. I'm also just me. The vulnerability in his admission caught her off guard. She'd expected power plays, seduction, the dangerous edge he usually carried. Not this, not him showing her something real. Why? She asked. Because your father is right about some things. He turned to face her. My family's business is brutal. The things I've had to do to maintain our position, to protect our interests, they're not things I'm proud of. And I understand if that's a line you can't cross. Then why pursue this partnership? Why pursue me? Because I'm tired of living in the dark. The words came out raw. I've spent 15 years building exactly what my father wanted. Becoming exactly what the family needed. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that I used to want something different. What did you want? He smiled, sad and honest. To be someone you could look at without seeing a criminal. To have a life that wasn't defined by violence and threats and impossible choices. To be worthy of someone like you. Kira's throat tightened. Kenji. I know it's too late for that. He moved closer, slowly, giving her time to retreat if she wanted. I know I am what your father says I am. But when I'm with you, I remember who I wanted to be. And that's a feeling I haven't had in 13 years. She should leave. Should maintain the boundaries her father had set, the ones she'd set for herself. Should remember all the reasons this was impossible. Instead, she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It was different from the almost kiss in her office. No hesitation, no interruption. Just want and truth and 13 years of denial finally breaking apart. Kenji responded immediately, one hand cupping her face, the other pulling her closer. The kiss was hungry, almost desperate, like they were both drowning and each other was air. When he pulled her flesh against him, she felt the hard length of him pressed against her stomach, evidence of exactly how much he wanted her. The realization sent heat flooding through her veins, made her gasp against his mouth. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. This is a terrible idea, he murmured. I know. Your father will never forgive you. I know. We'll destroy each other. Maybe. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Or maybe we'll figure out a way to make this work. You think there's a way? I don't know. Honesty felt like the only thing she had left. But I'm tired of making every decision based on what my father wants. What the company needs. What's safe and appropriate and respectable? What do you want? The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. I want to see where this goes, she whispered. Even if it's a mistake. Even if it burns everything down. I want to choose something for myself. Something blazing and almost vulnerable flashed across his face. Are you sure? No. She laughed, shaky and honest. I'm not sure about anything except that I'm tired of running from this. From you. He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring. When he walked her backward toward the bedroom, she went willingly. Kira. He stopped at the doorway, giving her one last chance to change her mind. Once we do this. I know. She reached up, pulled him down to her. Stop talking. His laugh was rough, almost surprised, before his mouth claimed hers, and they crossed the threshold together. The bedroom was dark except for the city lights filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. Kenji's hands moved with deliberate slowness, unzipping her dress with a restraint that felt like it was costing him. Each brush of his fingers against her skin was electric, intentional. 13 years, he murmured against her throat, his mouth tracing the line of her pulse. I've thought about this for 13 years. Kira's breath caught as his hands slid her dress off her shoulders, letting it fall to the floor. And? Does reality match the fantasy? He pulled back enough to look at her, and the hunger in his eyes made her shiver. Reality is better. She reached for his shirt, fumbling slightly with the buttons. She pushed it off his shoulders, her fingers tracing the lines of muscle, the old scars she didn't ask about. Not yet. Tonight wasn't about the violence of their worlds. It was about this, about them, about finally giving in to what had been building between them since they were too young to understand it. When they finally came together, it was with an intensity that stole her breath. Kenji moved over her, with a focused attention that made her feel like the only thing in the world that mattered. His hands mapped every curve, every response, learning her body with the same precision he brought to everything else. And when she shattered beneath him, his name on her lips, she felt him follow moments later, his control finally breaking, his face buried in her neck. Afterward, they lay tangled in expensive sheets, both breathing hard, the weight of what they'd just done settling over them like silk. No going back now, Kira whispered into the darkness. Kenji's arm tightened around her waist, pulling her closer against him. No, he agreed. No going back. She should feel guilty. Should be panicking about her father, about the company, about all the complications this created. Instead, she felt something close to peace. For the first time in 28 years, she'd chosen something just for herself. Whatever came next, she'd deal with it. But tonight, in the dark with Kenji's heartbeat steady beneath her ear, she let herself just be. Kira woke to unfamiliar weight around her waist and the scent of cedar. For a moment, she was disoriented. This wasn't her bed, wasn't her apartment. Then memory flooded back, and she went very still. Kenji was asleep behind her, one arm draped possessively across her middle, his breathing deep and even. Early morning light filtered through the windows, painting Tokyo in shades of gray and gold. She should leave. Slip out before he woke, before this became even more real than it already was. She didn't move. Your thoughts are loud, Kenji murmured against her shoulder, not opening his eyes. How long have you been awake? Long enough to know you're planning an escape. His arm tightened slightly. Don't. I have to go home. Change. Get to the office. It's 5 a.m. He finally opened his eyes, propping himself on one elbow to look down at her. In the morning light, he looked softer somehow. Younger. Stay a little longer. The request was simple, but the vulnerability underneath it wasn't. This was Kenji without his armor, without the mask he wore for the world. Just a man asking her not to leave. Okay, she whispered. A little longer. He pulled her closer, and they lay in silence, watching the city wake up through the windows. It felt dangerously domestic. Dangerously right. What happens now? Kira asked quietly. I don't know. His thumb traced circles on her hip. What do you want to happen? I want to not have to choose between you and my father. Between this and my career. She turned to face him. But that's not realistic, is it? No. His expression was serious. Your father will push back. Hard. And my family. He stopped, jaw tightening. What about your family? They won't approve either. For different reasons. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. The Yamada family has rules. Traditions. Getting involved with someone from outside our world, especially someone connected to business we're entangled with, it's complicated. Complicated meaning dangerous. Everything about my life is dangerous, Kira. That's not new. His dark eyes held hers. But I won't let anyone hurt you. Not even my own family. The promise should have felt empty. What power did he really have against centuries of Yakuza tradition? But the steel in his voice made her believe him anyway. So we keep it secret, she said. For now. Is that what you want? I want time to figure out how to make this work without losing everything else. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. All right. We're careful. Discreet. No one knows until we decide they know. And the partnership? We move forward with it. Professionally. Let people think that's all it is. His mouth curved slightly. Even if every time I see you in a meeting, I'll be remembering how you looked last night. Heat flooded her face. Kenji. Too much. But he was smiling now, that rare genuine smile she'd glimpsed a few times at school. Yes. But she was smiling too. He kissed her, slow and thorough, until she forgot why she'd been planning to leave. When he finally pulled back, his expression had shifted to something more serious. There's something you should know, he said. About my family. About what we do. Kira's stomach tightened. Do I want to know? Probably not. But you should anyway. He sat up, and she followed, suddenly very aware that they were both still naked. He seemed to notice the same thing and handed her his shirt from the floor. She pulled it on, grateful for the barrier. I've hurt people, Kenji said bluntly. Not recently, not since I took over from my father. But when I was younger, proving myself, I did things I can't take back. What kind of things? The kind that keep me awake at night. His gaze was steady, unflinching. I'm not looking for absolution. I'm just being honest about who you're getting involved with. I'm not a good man, Kira. I'm just a man trying to be better than he was. She should be horrified. Should be running for the door. Instead, she found herself asking, why are you telling me this? Because I won't lie to you. Not about this. He reached for her hand. If we're doing this, whatever this is, you deserve to know the truth. All of it. Kira looked down at their joined hands. His was larger, calloused, marked with small scars. A hand that had hurt people. A hand that had held her with devastating gentleness last night. I don't know how to reconcile those things, she admitted. The man you're describing and the man I. She stopped, not ready to finish that sentence. The man you what? His voice was soft. Nothing. It's too soon to. She shook her head. We should take this slowly. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe, or understanding. Slowly. Right. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She reached for it, saw her father's name, and felt her stomach drop. Where are you? We need to talk. Now. I have to go, she said, already moving toward her clothes. Kenji didn't try to stop her this time. Just watched as she dressed, his expression unreadable again. The mask sliding back into place. Kira. She paused at the bedroom door. Last night wasn't a mistake, he said quietly. Whatever happens next. It wasn't a mistake. She wanted to say the same thing. Wanted to cross back to him, to damn the consequences and stay. Instead, she just nodded and left. The car ride home was torture. Every red light felt like judgment. By the time she reached her apartment, showered, and changed into fresh clothes, it was almost 7 a.m. Respectable. Professional. Like she hadn't spent the night in her father's enemy's bed. Her phone rang as she was applying lipstick. Her father, again. I'm on my way to the office, she said before he could speak. Good. My office. 8 o'clock. He paused. And Kira? Don't lie to me about where you were last night. The line went dead. You don't want to miss what happens when Kira finally faces her father. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, turning on the notification bell, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far across the world this story has traveled.